Let's start with the presidential campaign. Are you about where you thought you'd be right now?
I think no one can ever predict where you are. I was amazed where I was a year ago, and I'm kind of amazed where I am today. So
amazed in a good way or a bad way?
Well, I think the polls aren't as good as they were a year ago, but there are many more people in the race, and races change over time. But it also shows that could be 6 months, hopefully 6 to 9 months from now, we'll be on the rise in the polls. And I think it takes people a while to meet people on stage, on a national stage, and get to know them. And when you have 5 minutes in 30 to 60 second sound bites, it takes a while, hopefully, for people to get to know you.
Your polls are at 3 and 6%, the two most recent, Fox and CNN. Your fundraising lags behind Bush, Cruz, Rubio, Walker, Perry, Christie. Two of your close political allies are under indictment. Are you not worried?
I always try to look at the glass being half full. So the good news is that when you poll my candidacy against Hillary Clinton, we're actually one of the few Republicans that beats Hillary Clinton. And ultimately, that's important for Republicans to pick someone who actually can beat Hillary Clinton. When you look at Donald Trump doing pretty well in the Republican primary, but losing by 16 points to Hillary Clinton, not only do I still lead her in many national polls, we lead her in 5 states, won by President Obama. And ultimately, it's the candidate who could win Pennsylvania, Michigan, Illinois. That's the kind of candidate I think Republicans need, because that shows that you can reach out to independent voters.
How are you going to get to that point, though?
That's a good question. Do you have any advice?
Well, I would hope that the interpretation that some people have has given you pause, at least. Let me just read you some story headlines from across the political spectrum,
Do we have to?
Is Rand Paul disappearing from the presidential race? Dog days of August not kind to Rand Paul. Is Rand Paul's campaign losing steam? How do you combat that perception when you have such a crowded race?
You remember when you were in elementary school and then somebody got down and then everybody said it's a pile on? We pile on. The internet's a little bit that way. They accentuate something that may or may not be entirely true. If you look at the polling since the debate, there's been like 7 or 8 polls, and you average them all, we've basically broke even, despite all the headlines. So the headlines, I think, are a little bit piling on. Now, Scott Walker has suffered a 10-point decline. Jeb Bush has suffered a 10-point decline. So it's a good question for all candidates whose numbers have changed, but I don't think it's any kind of death knell. I mean, everywhere we go, our crowds are bigger. I go into South Carolina, and they're like, you're right, good for going after Christie, and the crowds are twice as big as they were the last time I was there. Same in New Hampshire.
But the poll numbers aren't going up in those states.
Yeah, polls aren't always all they're cracked up to be. The polls,
which is usually said by people who are down in the polls.
Maybe, but even objectively, if you look at last election cycle, there were people in Kansas. They said the Senate race was deadlocked, and the Republican senator there won by 12 points. So remember in Virginia, they said Ken Cuccinelli was down 12 points going into the election. Same way with Gillespie. Turned out to be dead even. So we're not quite right. But also the thing is if we are going to look at polls to determine, who are the leaders and who are the ones we should pay attention to, we should probably look at all kinds of polls. So I'm not saying I can't tell people what to do anyway. But the thing is, there's a Republican poll, but there's also which Republican polls best against Hillary Clinton. And that is an important part of our decision making as Republicans, is who can actually beat her, who can actually gain independent vote and not alienate the independent vote. So it is important that the front runner on the Republican side is a disaster in a general election. He's like, here, Hillary Clinton, have the election. Democrats are applauding, saying...
So why is Donald Trump doing so well in the polls, Senator?
Well, 90% of people are unhappy with what's going on in Washington. I'm one of them.
And that was supposed to be your supporters have
I still
said all
am
along.
Unhappy.
He's the anti-establishment. He is the anti-Washington candidate.
Right.
He's usurped that from you.
Well, I think what it is people have to decide, and this, I don't think it's over. This is the beginning of the process. I think people are going to have to decide whether they want someone who can say, well, she's fat. Yeah, and I'm so good looking, or she's stupid, or I'm rich and I'm smart because I'm rich. We have to decide whether we want sort of empty platitudes or whether we're going to look at substance. I put forward a flat tax. I've put forward a plan to balance a budget in 5 years, and I've been part of an intellectual movement that's been around really since World War II that has been fighting against large government that is all-consuming and all involved in our lives. And I think for Donald Trump, basically, conservatives have to decide if he's a fake conservative or not, and I think truly he is a fake conservative because he's been on every side of every issue in the last 5 years.
Well, that's a good case in point, though. You mock him, you've imitated him for some of the words that he's used, but you've called him a fake, a bully, an empty suit. Have you employed some of the same tactics that you criticize in him.
Well, we backed him up with substance, and the substance is that basically he was for Obamacare. He was a leading advocate of a single-payer system. The Tea Party movement that I arose out of, this conservative sort of rebellion, we were unhappy with Republicans who voted for bigger government. So I think they'll be unhappy again if they get someone like Trump, because he was for Obamacare. He was for the bank bailouts. He's been, all big fan of the Hillary Clintons. So I really don't think that a businessman who says things like, I give money to politicians so they'll do whatever the hell I want, that's part of the problem. I mean, I ran against a Washington where you can buy and sell politicians, and here's a guy who brags about buying and selling politicians. It's like, that's precisely what's wrong with the system.
Some of your other opponents in the race have generally avoided getting into the fray with Donald Trump. And in fact, Gary Heaven, who is here, he's a big Republican donor, somebody who's helped to finance this eye clinic that you are participating in here in Haiti, told me, he told you, don't be picking a fight with him. Don't be disagreeing. Stand up beside him. Be part of that Washington is dysfunctional message. Are you considering rethinking your strategy?
Well, every day I do stand up and make the contrast, and I do it in 10 speeches a day in New Hampshire and South Carolina, Nevada, all the early primary states. So you do make your case. When you have 4 minutes, it's sort of trying to make the decision how best to present your case.
And for you, that decision was go hard, be aggressive?
I think campaigns are about contrast. And for 2 months, the Trump mania has been soaking up votes from a lot of candidates. And I guess my fear for the country is that there are countries that do succumb to celebrity. Italy had a celebrity. There are other countries that have had and elected celebrities. Often in the developing world, celebrities and very wealthy people will win. And I worry about the country because I don't believe that there's any sincerity to what the message is. And even when the message is sincere, it's so garbled that now here we have this great opponent of immigration who's going to ship everybody home, but then he says things like, oh yeah, but then I'm going to let them all back in. And it's like, really?
So it brings me back to my first question. What is it about him that's working? Because
he's tapped into anger. For example.
So why weren't you able to do that?
Well, I think we have at various times. 10% of America approves of what Congress is doing, and 90% disapproves. So you can disapprove and simply have anger at Washington, and there is some of that, and he's tapping into the anger. But I think he's getting, or his message is empty anger. It's an anger without substance, whereas I think people are rightly angry at government and angry at big government and debt. And really, frankly, the biggest anger I feel that came out of the whole conservative Tea Party movement was anger at Republicans who promised to make government smaller, and then it didn't become smaller. It actually became bigger. So, the real question is, are conservatives comfortable enough to say, you know what, Donald Trump's been against Obamacare long enough that he's not going to expand it? Or would you start to have the suspicion that, you know what, he still kind of sounds like he's for single payer? I brought that up in the debate. He said, well, he used to be for it. He still kind of likes it, but he's not sure if it works. But he's no longer for Obamacare, but, he still kind of likes single payer. And it's like, do we really trust a person like that they're going to make government's involvement in healthcare smaller or bigger? I think we could be well on the way to single payer if we elect Donald Trump.
His donation to the Moran Eye Center helped to finance the trip that you were on and I came to last year in Guatemala. Did you ask for his help this year? He
donated again to this trip as well.
Can you tell us how much?
I don't know the exact figures because none of it comes to me. It goes to the university, but I'm pretty sure he did. I'm actually not positive. I'm pretty sure he did.
He has prompted some debate on real issues, however, whatever you think of his approach. So let me ask you kind of a quick round on where you stand on immigration. First, where do you stand on birthright citizenship?
I think if you have an open border, it's a problem. Any kind of beacon that you have. So if you have a beacon of any kind of forgiveness, and some of them can be realistic, but birthright citizenship is sort of a forgiveness. You break a law, you come here and have a child, but then we say, well, that's fine, the child's here now, the child is a citizen. I think if you have an open border, that's a mistake. Because what happens is millions and millions of people are coming. So you're for ending
birthright citizenship?
What I would do is I would try to control the border, and then probably it's going to be very difficult to change a law or something that's been going on for 100 years. But what I would say is if you have an open border, you can't have birthright citizenship. If you secure your border and the only people who come in are legal, then it becomes a non-issue because really the people who come here and have children have come here legally. And so it's not really so much a problem.
Is that really answering the question, though?
Sure it is. So if if under today's circumstance where you have an open border, I think you shouldn't have birthright
So right
citizenship.
now, as the border
I think
stands,
we have
you
an
would
open
end
border.
birthright citizenship.
Yeah, but it's a matter of how you fix it.
Well, let's talk about that, because you said the first thing is to secure the border.
My preference would be that you fix security at the border versus birthright citizenship. Although I have supported legislation and co-sponsored legislation in the past to end birthright citizenship. My main complaint, though, isn't about that. It's about the open and porous border. So it really has to start where it starts, which is the border and how we secure the border.
So you did support that resolution in 2011.
Right.
And it does have has similarities to what Donald Trump said, and you've called his plan ludicrous, but aren't there elements
No, I think
that are similar?
What I've called ludicrous about his plan is that we're going to expel 11 million people and then we're going to invite most of them back in. That's just a really dumb idea.
So let's talk about how you secure
And
the border.
extraordinarily expensive. And then the Mexicans are going to pay for it. Extraordinarily just weird idea that no one's really gotten an explanation about how the Mexicans, I mean, we're going to go down there and force them to pay for this somehow? I mean, it's a bizarre idea.
Well, they said they won't pay for it.
Well, I know. I mean,
they won't
it's
pay
amazing
for
that he would even ask the president of Mexico that question because it's such an absurd notion.
But would you build a fence, continue to build a fence? If
All of the above.
How big and how expensive would that be?
All of the above, but the most important aspect of having border security is actually having legal immigration that works. So when you have legal immigration that works, you don't have pressure on it. So for example, I'm not opposed to migrant workers coming up here. I'm not opposed to a worker program. In fact, I think that's one way you have adequate legal migration and immigration for work. But what happens is that if I'm a farmer in Kentucky and I want to bring in 30 workers, it's a pain. It's all paperwork. It's done on paper, not digital. It takes about 2 months to get a worker here. Let's say I've had a worker that's come every year for 18 years. I just have to fill out the same paperwork every year. Why wouldn't you just sort of say, check, he's here again, or she's here again? There are many ways we could fix our legal immigration and then also have very good processing along the border. There's also no reason with our technology that you couldn't have one immigration station patrol 200 miles of the border, both with remote sensing and with active interdiction. And
Donald Trump has called for tripling the number of immigrations and customs agents to secure the border.
Well, we may need more.
Even more than that?
No. I mean, we may need more than we have. But I think the first thing you have to do is you have to begin getting the people who work there to make sure it functions and that there is a zero tolerance for people who break the law. The numbers, though, and I think people have to be a little careful with this. When they passed immigration reform, the Rubio bill that I voted against last year, they started piling on money. And you're right, it's expensive. So we're supposed to be conservative. So someone has to ask people who just want to pile money in, is that a conservative notion? Because we could be talking about billions and billions. Some thought that the Rubio bill would be $40 billion or something because they started piling security on trying to get the votes of conservatives who frankly don't believe the border's secure. The problem we have with the whole immigration debate is back in 1986 they passed a bill that allowed 3 million people to stay. But the promise was we'll secure the border. And it never came. So really what you need is a president who will enforce the law. I don't believe Republican or Democrat presidents since 1986 have enforced the border or enforced any immigration.
Let me go back to the question that you didn't really answer. You said yes to building a fence. How big? How do you pay for it? How much would it cost?
I don't think the details are so important other than to say...
the cost isn't important. Just finishing the fence that's there now, finishing the fence that's there now said it would cost $5 billion.
Well, yes, the cost becomes important, but how you figure out exactly how long the fence is, how tall the fence is, how deep the fence is a practical...
It's critical to the cost.
Yeah, no, and it's a practical concern when you're debating it. But the first thing you do is you have to believe that we're going to secure the border and have a president that enforces the existing rules. So you can't have magnets that entice people to come illegally. You get rid of that, you secure the border, and then you can discuss where we go from there. But how tall the fence is, it's sort of like asking a general, do you need 50 tanks or 75 tanks? I don't think every candidate needs to know whether it's 50 or 75, other than that they have to believe that defending the country is important and that we will take the advice of those who know the detail of which is best. I don't think it probably is a fence, the whole border. I think, for example, hundreds and hundreds of miles of desert could be controlled with a helicopter. I would think a helicopter station could control 100 miles in each direction where it's desert. I really think they could.
There are a lot of leaders in the Republican Party, Republican establishment, who are concerned that the kinds of conversations that the Republicans are having right now about immigration makes them look like the party of deportation and sounds a death knell for the possibility
they're exactly right.
of winning
it's a disaster.
the presidency.
It's a disaster. The whole discussion that people say, well, isn't it great that Trump has brought up immigration? Well, not if you think all Hispanic people are rapists and drug dealers. I mean, it's a terrible thing to say, but it's also going to be a nightmare. And if people want to see that it's a nightmare, look at how Donald Trump polls against Hillary Clinton. He's down 16 points. Everybody in the field does better. I actually lead Hillary Clinton in some national polls, and Donald Trump's down 16. So it is an important debate, and it's a mistake for us to get tied up in that. But it's been fed. It's this sort of a frenzy going on, and it's been a self-reinforcing cycle for 2 months now.
Let's talk about your campaign going forward. You've confirmed, or your party has confirmed, you've given Kentucky's Republican Party $250,000 so that they can have a down payment on the caucus, which would allow you, presumably, to run both for Senate and for President. You can confirm that the $250,000 has gone to the Kentucky Republican Party?
We have put $250,000 into an account that will be for the caucus as the expenditures come forward.
And where will the rest of the money come from? It's estimated there's another $250,000.
Well, nobody knows yet, and so I'm a conservative, so nobody knows what the costs yet are. So I want to be able to, if I'm paying, I want to be able to control what the cost of the caucus will be. But most states charge a filing fee, and so a filing fee would probably make up for about half of it, and the $250 probably pays for the other half. But if it doesn't, I've said that I'll pay what is necessary to run a caucus.
Is that coming from your Senate money or your presidential?
I'm not sure exactly. It comes from some accountant and goes to 10 lawyers and 15 accountants, and they tell me whether it's appropriate. But it comes out of some political account.
Let me ask you finally, you've released a letter, your campaign released a letter from your dad earlier this week. In the past, you've made it clear you want to stand on your own. In fact, one time you said, I think I need to present my message. It needs to be my message. Why the change?
Well, I don't think there's a change. It still does have to be about my message. I'm 52. I have left home.
But you have a letter where he's talking about supporting you and your position on ISIS.
He's supportive of me. I've been supportive of him. And so we come from the same philosophical school. And the same school is that we believe in the Constitution. We believe in limited government. We believe in a government that only spends what comes in. And so we have a great deal of things in common. And I think it's pretty common for a father to support their son. I think Jeb Bush's dad is supporting him, and I think so is his brother.
And
but you also don't see them out on the trail all the time, because it does have to be about Jeb Bush the same way it has to be about me.
And Hillary Clinton, attacks continue on her emails. She says it's more the Benghazi partisanship, and it's going to burn itself out. You said you wanted to talk about the issues. Is it smart for the Republicans to continue to go after this? Should it be left to the investigators who are on this, and you stick to the issues and how to move the party
Absolutely,
forward?
Benghazi will still be an issue in 2016.
And the emails?
And the emails as well, because they go to judgment. If you want to be commander-in-chief, you have to, I think, have great wisdom and show good judgment, because you're in charge of the nuclear arsenal. We don't want someone who isn't obeying the law and who is reckless with national security. In Benghazi, it was cable after cable from the ambassador requesting more help. The security team requested to stay. And I asked her in committee, did you read the cable? She didn't read anything. She just was not involved with one of the hottest spots in the world, and I think that goes to judgment. And it isn't the spin, it isn't the fake, relation to a movie or anything. It's about 9 months in advance being, probably a dozen requests for more security or keeping adequate security. She denied all of that. The emails goes to the same thing. National security involves protecting some secrets. Even her schedule shouldn't be released. Because do you think it's dangerous if Hillary Clinton were here and they announced she's going to be in Port-au-Prince, or any country really, but they announce that she's going to be there, and if she sends an email that everybody can look at the email? It was a huge mistake for her to do this. But now we're finding out even President Obama's Justice Department and FBI are saying, you know what, many of these things were top secret. So she was very, very reckless, and that goes to good judgment. She also fired ambassadors who did exactly what she did. So it's hypocrisy, it's poor judgment, but it's also, hey, I'm a Clinton, I'm above the law. They've made $100 million selling their influence in the last few years. There are people who think there's one law for the rest of us little people, and there's a different law for the Clintons. And this is a real problem. Her numbers, talk about numbers that are plummeting. She is in danger, and there is a real sense that she might not be the nominee because she is so weighed down by this baggage.
When you get back to the United States after having done these surgery, what's the first thing you need to do as a presidential candidate to give yourself a real chance
of winning the nomination?
I think I do exactly the same thing I've been doing. And a lot of things people don't realize about this race is it's state by state. So we are organizing the colleges. We have, I think, over 250 college campuses organized. We are organized. And a lot of those kids don't show up in polls. They're on cell phones. Nobody's calling them or they're not answering. But we are organizing colleges in both New Hampshire, Iowa, South Carolina, Nevada. We are barnstorming, speech after speech. And it's interesting. When you go to Iowa, and you know this because you've been there, you'll have 100 people in an audience and you'll poll all of them. They all aren't for you yet. They may have heard every candidate that comes through. And all of these polls that everybody's freaking out about, 66% of everybody in those polls say they haven't decided. So we're pushing people into categories, and polls aren't so good when you tell a pollster, I'm undecided, and they say, oh, no, tell us who you're for right now. That's not really an accurate poll. So what we're doing is sort of a popularity contest, and it would be sad if we just sort of say, oh, well, it's over because of polls that aren't based on the early primary states and are based on 2/3 of the people responding saying they haven't decided yet.
Senator, thank you.